This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
Hey, Mike. Welcome to the Born or Made podcast. Good to see you.
You too. How you doing today?
I'm doing really good. So I always like to start off by asking, so where am I talking to you from right now?
I'm in Los Angeles, California, specifically Westlake Village, which is kind of North Los Angeles near Calabasas, Thousand Oaks. If you're local, you know those cities are. If
Yep.
not, LA is good enough.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it's like I tell everybody I live in Woodford, and they're like, where's that? I'm like, I live south of D.C., and they're like, oh, I know where that is. So, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, nobody knows where I live either. So, so I like to kind of go down the path from the beginning. So where were you born at?
I was born in Oakland, California.
Okay, so you're a California boy by nature then.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then, Northern and Southern California are almost completely different states.
I've heard
I
that.
grew up born in the Bay Area, which is a big city, but I grew up about 3 hours north of San Francisco, a place called Chico, which Chico's there's a college there, but it's really a farming town. So Chico could be Iowa. I mean, it's just a small place, and it was a great place to grow up.
And so you stayed there through your whole life until you got through high school, or did you move around a little bit, or were you kind of in that same school area?
Yeah, so I was born in Oakland, moved to Chico in
Okay.
first grade, or right before first
Yep.
grade. Went through elementary school and junior high and high school in Chico, and then eventually went to UCLA.
And so were you playing football at like Pop Warner type stuff, or did you just kind of like in Texas, everybody started in seventh grade and, you played your high school and you were obviously I was done, but yeah.
Yeah, I grew up playing all sports, and so during I started playing tackle football in sixth grade, and then continued obviously through the NFL. But my senior year in high school, I lettered in basketball and baseball and track, and so as a kid, I tried all sports. My parents were very encouraging me to try different things, and so I tried soccer and tennis and you name it, I tried it. And then obviously football is my best sport.
So that was your best sport. I mean, obviously, if you're making it to, D1 schools, you were a gifted athlete, so you could pretty much play whatever you wanted. But you felt like that was the one that you kind of went towards and really kind of gravitated towards, or did you struggle with baseball or?
Yeah, I mean, Chico's a small town. Chico's a small town.
Yeah.
So, and if you're a halfway decent athlete, you could play every sport if you wanted to. I could not have played college baseball, basketball. I was fast, but I couldn't have run track at the Pac-10 level at that point.
Right. It's like, I mean, yeah, like it's like if you're really good at football, the guys that are really good at track are really good at track.
For sure.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
one thing that we talk about strictly football. You'll say, oh, he's football players. He can be fast, but not compared to track guys. Track guys are on a different level, but those guys don't want to get hit.
They don't want to get hit.
They don't want to get tackled, and they can't tackle anybody.
And you don't
so
want
it's a
to.
different type of speed. And you say Dion might be an exception, Bo Jackson might be an exception, but or Tyreek Hill, but most of fast football players aren't fast for Olympic type speed guys.
Yeah, and as a very below average high school athlete, I would much rather run 100 yards than 400 in a full sprint, because 400 yards is a beatdown.
Oh, that's torture there. 200 was my limit.
Yeah, 400-meter athletes, anybody like you've run them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to
torture.
fathom.
It's torture.
Yeah, and they're
torture.
running 10-second hundreds 4 times.
Correct. No
Yeah.
break.
Yeah, no break. Yeah, no, yeah. So you said you went to UCLA?
Yeah. So my story, I walked on at UCLA. So
Walked on.
Chico is off the beaten path,
Right.
and so no one, if people are scouting California for their college, nobody comes to Chico, and so they'd go to the Bay Area or LA where there's D1 athletes all over the place. Chico is not like that. So UCLA is actually the only school I applied to. I applied, it got accepted. I still didn't want to go. I wanted to go to a junior college and kind of earn my keep and show D1 schools or D2 schools what I can do. But really, my friends talked me out of it. They're like, Mike, you cannot turn down UCLA to go to Butte College. And they're right. And so I actually went to UCLA. I graduated high school in June of '81. I went to UCLA like a week later, summer school. And that's when I kind of met the coaches and I introduced myself. I say, hey, I want to try out for the team. They're like, are you a student? Like, yeah, I'm a student. So it wasn't even a preferred walk-on. They knew nothing about me. And they gave me an opportunity to show what I could do. I wasn't really good at that point. I was really skinny. But I had the will to work to make it happen.
So you go to tryouts. Do you think you got their attention pretty quick? I mean, did you get on the first year as a walk-on, or did it take you another season, or how did that work? I mean, what's the kind of walk me through the process, how you get to be
so it's pretty unique. It wasn't even a tryout. So I saw the guys I was going to summer school as a freshman. And so I saw the receivers, the quarterbacks, maybe some DBs on the practice field every day at 3:00. So I'm like, I'm just going to go on the field and introduce myself to the coach. So it wasn't all the guys working out were guys already on the team. So I asked the coach if I could try out if I could be a part of the team or try out. And he goes, yeah, first, are you a student? I'm a student. He goes, yeah, come on out. And so I just came out the next day, and then, followed through drills. They coached me up a little bit. And then eventually they must have saw a little something in me because they didn't know me from Adam. But I didn't know what I was doing as a receiver, because in high school we had like 3 coaches, offensive coach, defensive coach, and head coach. So there was no receiver training, or I didn't really know how to run routes. I was pretty fast. I knew I could catch, but there was a lot. There's a lot for me to learn to be at the D1 level.
Well, the speed alone, right? I mean, just the at which the game moves is compared to high school is like going from D1 to the NFL, right? I mean, it's faster.
For sure. I mean, everyone's D1. Everyone's a good athlete. And
right.
So high school, you've got guys that they're never going to play sports again, and they're interested in music and chemistry, different things. If you're in D1, people are taking it pretty serious. They've been good athletes. They compete. They're strong. So it's a different ball game altogether. You're right.
So you're in high school. Are you you're a good athlete. You decide you're going to walk on. I mean, so walk me back through. So like today, everybody's got nutrition. They understand all these things. They're working out. I mean, did you do that back? I know when you graduated high school the same year as I did, by the way, so we're exact same age. I mean, we were kind of trying this thing called protein. I want to say I started drinking some of that afterwards. I think we would try the raw egg because of Rocky, but I mean, what did you do any of that?
I think my biggest, when I was self-evaluating myself coming out of high school, mm-hmm. I was too skinny. So I 6'2", high school I weighed 160. Oh. And so watching the funny thing is watching college football. I didn't watch much, but I remember watching Herschel Walker because he's a couple years older than me, and I remember because I played DB as well. I mean, I like playing DB as well as much as receiver, and I was thinking, there's no way I could tackle Herschel Walker.
Oh, he'd run you over.
Way too big and powerful. He'd yeah. run me over. And so I knew I needed. So eventually, I like receiver better, but I need to gain weight regardless. So when I first went to UCLA, and they said you could try out for the team or whatever, the weight coach gave me protein powder. So I was living in the dorms, and so I was like, protein powder every meal. I would put it in ice cream, put a little bit of milk, and kind of make my own milkshake. And so I really went from 160 to 175 over that summer, because then I started lifting weights. I was on a protein diet. Dorms, you could eat as much as you want. So it was a good combination for me.
No kidding. Yeah, because I mean, even 175, of course, by today's standards, what are some of these defensive backs? 225, maybe not 250.
Yeah, guys are big, and even receivers are, 6'4", 6'5", 215. So everyone was bigger, but as a freshman, that at least got me from 160 to 175.
Yeah.
At least I kind of looked the part. I didn't look like the beanpole out there trying to play football at UCLA.
Wow. So you get through did you play much as your freshman year?
No, the freshman year I was to me a tackling dummy. So I was happy to be on the team, but it was tough. I mean, there was tough days that went by where I was literally a tackling dummy. Like, you run from point A to point B, these linebackers are going to tackle you. I'm like, well, can I outrun them or juke them? No, just jog, Mike. These linebackers need practice tackling live bodies. And you get, obviously, and linebackers at UCLA are 220, 230. And so they're tackling me, and it's not fun. So to me, that was like one of the pivotal times in my early development at UCLA where I remember that day. It sucked. And so I'm thinking, I don't want to do this in terms of I don't want to quit, but how do I get from being a tackling dummy to being on the other field where the guys are prepping for Oregon or Arizona State or SC? And so that was like, I need to do something different or work differently to not be a tackling dummy, to have these coaches realize I have potential. And so that was a key moment for me.
So you get through your first season, so you start January. So are you still a 𝗕becque𝗃, or are you getting a little bigger, or are you still pretty?
A little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. So the first year I was a red shirt tackling dummy, learning, but I was getting better as the season went on. I was, the scout team is what the walk-ons and younger players do, and I was getting better, more confident at being a football player. And so the graduate assistant coaches would see, like, they'd hold up a card, and so we'd play an opponent, and when the balls were getting thrown, so they'd always say, Mike, you play this position, you play the X, you play the Z, because I know you're going to catch it. I know you're going to give them, hard time on defense. And so that's kind of every day was my Super Bowl. And so the starters would get mad at me. They call me, UCLA Spalding Field is where we practice. And they would get mad. I go, you're all Spalding Field. And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to get better. If I make you look bad, I'm a freshman, I'm a walk-on. I don't know what to tell you. And so every day I was challenging those guys. Coaches would see it. Times I was with the regular guys, like in early practice, I was trying to catch every ball. I was going 100% every time. I wanted coaching every rep. And so the coaches realized that I was hungry. The coach would say, that walk-on is hungry. That dude is hungry. And I was hungry to get better every day.
So you get in on your sophomore year. Are you do you get to start playing at that point, or kind of walk me through your next year? I'm just interested because I have a question I want to ask you. So you get your sophomore year.
So the first year redshirted. The second year was, I guess, freshman year again.
Okay, freshman.
I traveled. There's only 2 walk-ons that traveled, myself and a long snapper. To be honest, I wasn't ready to play my second year either. First year, it would have been child abuse throwing me on the field. I was not ready to play. Second year, I still wasn't quite ready to play. I was still learning, getting stronger, developing. My work habits were there, but I wasn't ready to. If they needed me to win a game, I would have been in deep trouble. So I traveled, got better. I only played in garbage time. So my first catch happened to be a touchdown against Wisconsin, but that was garbage time. I ended up having like 3 catches for the year, all in times that it did not matter, but it was good for my development. It was perfect for my development that I got another year to get stronger, gain some weight, know what I'm doing in practice, going against good guys in practice, guys that were making the pros. I was going against them in practice, watching guys that we had some receivers, guy named JoJo Townsell, played for the Jets, guy named Dokie Williams, played for the Raiders. They both got drafted, got to see them every day perform and practice. And so I just would learn, and what I would do is take mental reps. So you can only take so many reps as an athlete, but to me, I'm watching and analyzing, like, that's why that guy got open. That's why that guy didn't get open. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's my style, how I'm going to make it different or better, or I'm going to do what the coach says, whatever it takes to eventually get on the field. So yeah, the second year I didn't play either. But the third year I was ready to go. So
did you have a moment when you're out here that you questioned that you were, you could make it? I mean, did you have those moments? Like, am I good enough?
To be honest, no.
Good.
And it's weird that I was in that position. And if I back up a little bit, so when in high school I got accepted to UCLA, then I went to UCLA during their spring practice. So it was April or May. And so they were doing spring practice. So I went to spring practice with my mom and dad, and I saw the receivers, and I was like, I hate to say it, I wasn't impressed. I was like, okay, a couple of the guys are really good, but most of the guys in this field are not that good. They know more than me because I'm in high school. I never had a coach, but I always thought that if these guys can make it, once I learn what I'm doing, get bigger, I can compete with these guys. I didn't know I was going to make it, but I thought I could definitely compete with these guys. So I always had confidence that with my ability, with my work ethic, I can make it happen. By seeing the guys there, because you don't know if you've never. I never went to a college football game outside of Chico State, so I didn't know what Pac-12 guys were like. I thought they were almost all pros, and some were really good. Some made pros, and some were just guys that maybe would have played at Chico High, weren't that great.
So when you get in there, I mean, is there a moment as you're going through college that I always wonder this with, especially with professional athletes, I hear it more in golf, like you realized you belonged there. I mean, at that point, that moment that you just, you belong there. Cause I would think, you obviously you were very confident because you were very disciplined, but that you knew you belong there with the D1 receivers.
I wouldn't say there was a specific moment. I just thought that my progression, I could see I was getting better. And really they do one-on-one competitions where it's receiver, DB, quarterback throwing to the ball, you tell them the route, you run it. I was successful at doing that against guys that were starters for UCLA. So I was never, at a certain point when I gained confidence and knew what I was doing, I was never like, oh man, this DB is going to D me up. I never thought that. I thought that I can get open on anyone on this team. And it really what reinforced it was one of the graduate assistants after my second freshman year, the offensive coordinator, a guy named Homer Smith, told this coach, put together the best one-on-ones, the best receivers, DB matchups that we've had all spring or all last year. And so the guy didn't know who the players were. He just looked at all the one-on-ones, put together the tape. And so the coach told him, I said, why is this a Mike Sherrard highlight film? And the guy goes, I don't know who Mike Sherrard is, but you told me to put the best one-on-ones on tape. You told me to edit it to the best one-on-ones. And first, I don't know who the guys are. I just know that this guy, number 82, he seems to be getting open every time. He keeps taking guys deep and making plays, and I don't know. And so the coaches, then they realize that, okay, let's take a better look at this guy because he's, taking the starters and the second string guys, and he's a walk-on, he's a young dude, but he's doing really well in these drills. Let's give him more of an opportunity.
Wow, that's so cool. So you get through college. Now your senior year, you have an incredible year.
Well, I had my sophomore year is my best year statistically.
Okay, I just assumed. So yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? So tackling dummy, traveling, but garbage time.
Yeah.
My sophomore year is my first year as a starter. I was all Pac-10, third team All-American, set records at UCLA for receiving yards, receiving catches in a season. Second year, numbers went off a little bit. Senior year, I was prepped to have a great year, but I broke my collarbone mid-season. So I played like 6 games, had a really great start to the year, broke my collarbone, and then I ended up playing the last game of the regular season against SC and then the Rose Bowl that year. And so the senior year, I knew I was better. Like the coach said something, the head coach, Terry Donahue, that I was the best offensive player on the team. But it was just, I got hurt, so I missed a lot of games, but our team still did really well. And the college was a great time for me. We ended up winning 3 Rose Bowls when I was at UCLA, regardless. And so, but my senior year, I would have had great numbers, different numbers than today because, people throw the ball more now, and also no huddle, so you get more plays in the game. But in terms of me being the dominant guy on the outside, I felt like I was it.
Yeah, I mean, a collarbone is not typically, at least not a career-ending break either. Just takes time.
For sure. So it took 6 weeks. So by the time I was week 5, I played, and then again I played in week 11 or 12. So
you get through the season. It's so different now, right? Of course, I don't remember. I was a kid back then. Now there's this big hype and all the, everybody know who's going to be. I mean, how did it work back then? I mean, you know, we weren't even, you know, we were lucky if we got to see 2 or 3 college games on a weekend, and they were only the biggest games, right?
Sure,
Now
for sure.
you
Yeah, so
can
not
see
every college
50.
game was on, but the scouts still did the same amount of work uh, back then as they do now. It's just more hyped up because, you know, the sports talk shows and people are in the sports, and there's a million channels. So as my senior year was going along, my coaches were told, or I was told, that I would potentially be a late first round pick, early second round pick. So they projected me at the next level, but I never, and so that was kind of going into it. But I never, it's funny, as a player, I never really looked at the pros. It probably till my junior year. I was just trying to be the best player I could be. You know, how can I get better every day? How can I challenge myself? I never thought about coming to go UCLA, then go to the pros. I was lucky to be at UCLA to get on the field, period. But at some point, I saw guys that were behind me make the pros. I'm like, okay, there might be an opportunity, but I haven't made it yet. So I need to keep pushing, you know, as much as I can.
And so how did they do it back then? I mean, now a lot of the guys are there. Everybody's waiting by the phone. You know, the cameras are at the, you know, families' houses. I'm assuming it was nothing like that.
It was nothing like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they had any guys in New York.
I just want to know, like,
Jackson,
what was the difference?
Pick. So with me, I'm like, you know, I'm going to go to Chico, be at my parents' house. And so I went to my parents' house in Chico. It was just me. I thought it was going to be me, my mom, and dad. And then my best friend came over, because then the draft was one day. It started at 8 o'clock East Coast time. So so it wasn't like a prime time show.
Yeah, okay.
It was on ESPN, and ESPN wasn't as big. So it started at 5 a.m. California time. So it's funny, my best friend came over. He's like, dude, I'm going to be with you during the draft. I'm like, dude, I'm not the first pick. Like, you don't need to be here at 5 o'clock. I want to kind of sleep and wake up being drafted. So he was there with me. His name is Don George, still my best friend. So he was there, knocking, we sat on the couch. My dad actually had to go to school to teach. So after like 9 o'clock, he's like, good luck, son. I got to go to work. And so me, my mom, and my best friend just sat and watched. And I knew teams that were interested. I knew the Cowboys were interested. I knew the Giants were interested. I knew certain teams were not interested. Teams that had picked receivers in the first round previous, like the Niners, the Raiders, maybe the Bengals. They may be working me out, but I knew they weren't really interested. So I was kind of watching the draft like a fan until it got down to the Giants, which had picked number 19, and the Cowboys had picked number 20. But both those teams had worked me out 2 or 3 individually times. So I knew they were really interested in possibly
When you say
drafting.
Worked you out, you actually went there, or they came to you, or how did that work? What did that mean?
So back then I had individual workouts. So I went to the Combine, which is the NFL invites the top 350 seniors.
I've heard of it. Yep.
So after that, what they did back then, teams could call you up. So team like Vikings may call me up or call my agent, say, look, we want to work you out, Mike. Can you run a 40? Can you catch passes for us? Can you do A, B, and C? We'll come to UCLA on Tuesday.
Okay.
Great. So I had like 20 workouts with that. So the Giants came out twice. Cowboys came out 3 times. And so I just worked out for teams. Sometimes I ran 40s. Sometimes, there's a couple of times I was in Chico, and teams say, we want to work you out. I'm like, well, I'm not in LA. We'll come to Chico. Okay, come to Chico. I'll run a 40 for you. I'll catch balls, or I don't have a quarterback, but I'll do whatever you want.
So are you doing this at your high school field?
So I'd go to Chico State. And then
Chico, you went to the college. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was right across the street from the high school. So it was different. I don't know if kids are doing that many workouts, and especially if you might be that high of a pick, a first round.
Well, now
pick.
they have video of everything, and they have stats. I mean, compared to when.
Well, they still have stats, and I get it. Where for the scouts, that's kind of they earn their job. Like, if you're a scout, you get to tell them, like, I need to see this guy personally. The tape doesn't say it all, and so they would come out and work me out, and then they wouldn't say much. They would know. The scout is not in charge of drafting you, but they want to put together the best picture for the team, and the team can decide, hey, we need a receiver, we need a quarterback, or need lineman.
So the scout is really just a data collector, right?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but I know one thing for sure. I watch these kids today, and they take off and stop, or they go through, and it's all done with lasers. Back when we were kids, there's some guy standing at the other and going,
"Oh yeah, same time.
Go!" And
yeah,
they
for sure.
snap that
That's
finger.
not the most accurate.
No, but that's the way it was. But now it's
Yep.
they're figuring out these times and they're counting them down to the what did the one kid this year break the 40, or was it last year? Some kid ran some.
That dude's running some fast times.
Yeah, these guys are so fast now. Yeah. Well, the thing that blows me away, not to digress, is how fast these freaking linemen are, and these 300-pound men that are so fast.
Right, but I think the main difference now is you kind of alluded to the earlier, like diet,
Yeah.
and also speed training. People like my generation, I speed trained. I worked out with the UCLA track coach guy named John Smith, so we did some speed, but not most people did not do speed training. They worked out whatever the team had them working out. Nowadays, people know that the importance of the 40. The 40 gets people drafted. If you're a so-so player or on the bubble of second round, third round, first round, whatever, if you run a fast 40, you're now you're cemented in the better round. So people take it more serious. They work on it. My generation, most guys didn't work on it. It wasn't a thing.
Yeah. So we'll go back to the draft. So you're hanging out at the house with your parents. Your dad obviously left. Your best friend's there. So you obviously have a actual phone, no cell phone, right?
No. Landline.
Landline. You're waiting for the ring.
Some people look it up.
That's funny. So you're just sitting there.
So we're just waiting. And I knew, like I said, I knew the Cowboys and the Giants were both interested. Like they were like, if I was going to be picked in the first round, it was probably going to be one of those two teams. So I was watching Atlanta at pick 17, 49ers had pick 18, and they had just picked Jerry Rice the year before. Then the Giants picked, and the Cowboys picked. So as Atlanta picked, I'm like, okay, they're not going to work. They're not going to pick me. Then the Niners were coming up like, well, they're not going to pick me either because they got Jerry Rice. And so I was watching, just kind of relaxed, not that I could do anything. And then just watching ESPN, they're like, there's been a trade. The Cowboys have traded with the 49ers, taking the number 18 pick and pick Mike Sherrard. I'm like, oh, whoa, hold up.
Wait.
Back that up.
I know that guy.
So it happened real quick. And then 2 seconds later, Gil Brandt of the Cowboys called me. And he said, hey, Mike, we just picked you. How's it going to feel to play a star in your helmet? I said, oh, man, I'm excited. And then he's like, and he knew right away. They knew I was in Chico because he called my mom's house. And then he said, well, look, there's a flight leaving in 45 minutes from Sacramento. We need you here today. I'm like, I'm 100 miles away, sir. I can't make it in 45 minutes. He goes, okay, there's a flight in 2 hours. Get on that flight. We need you in Dallas today for a press conference and blah, blah, blah. So then I just, went to the airport, Sacramento. First time ever flying first class.
Oh, you actually got to fly first class?
Because you get on the plane, you either go right to coach or left to first class. And I'm like, here's my ticket. She goes, oh, to the left. I'm like, to the left? I've never been to the left before. And so got in row 2, flew there. And when I got there, Coach Tom Landry was at the airport to pick me up.
No way.
Did a press conference at the airport. It was in media. It was exciting. It was exciting stuff.
So I saw Tom Landry it must have been mid 80s. I'm in Austin because I grew up in Texas. So I'm in Austin, and we're getting on a Southwest airline flight, and you see this guy in this suit, and he's wearing this hat, and everybody's like, that's Tom Landry. Everybody's like, that's Tom Landry. That's Tom. And I'll never forget this. I'm standing there, I'm 5'7" on a good day, right? And I look at this man, and I'm like, oh my God, he had like a V back, athletic. Yeah. I'm assuming 6-footish, everybody's tall to me, right? And I was always amazed because, all my life as a kid, like we had a litter of dogs, and my mom named the dogs after the defensive line for the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. So my mom was the biggest Dallas Cowboy fan ever. And so I see this guy and I'm like, oh my God, he's huge. I thought he was just some little dude like me sitting on the side with his hat on, and he was an athlete. Like I knew he went, I learned later, he was obviously a college athlete, but I was shocked at how incredibly athletic he looked. And he was probably easily in his 60s. He was older than you and me for sure today.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say about Coach Landry, very disciplined.
Yeah.
Regimented, God-fearing individual. A nice man, super nice man, didn't have many words to say to anyone. He just kind of was mental, was thinking about things, but it's a great leader, great football mind.
Yeah, he was a well-liked young man in Texas, that's for sure.
Yep.
Still is to this legend in Texas. Yeah, they used to say he could run for governor and he'd win. It just, he was.
Oh, he would have for sure.
Yeah. So I thought it was funny. So you turned left. So what did it feel like though? Seriously. So you're at this point 22-ish.
Yeah, about 22.
So you're a kid by your.
There, I was excited to get drafted, and obviously as a kid, every kid dreams about playing pro sports.
I didn't, but I did not. By the way.
You did not? You didn't have that dream?
I never had a chance. I played. I was Roger Staubach. I'm not going to lie there.
That's the thing. You had a dream of playing like Roger Staubach.
Yeah, I wanted to be that, and I did the putting, I was going to win the Masters, but I was realistic. That was not going to happen. That's all I'm saying.
But most kids have that dream, like, oh,
absolutely.
Play for sport. So just going there was exciting, and meeting Coach Landry and knowing that my dream was here. Like it's mine. It's not over by any stretch, but it's here. I have an opportunity. My work is paid off in terms of being drafted in the first round and me have an opportunity to compete and play, and a little nervous because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you watch TV, football on TV for so long. And even then with the old school Cowboys, I mean, it was the old school Cowboys. I mean, obviously Coach Landry was there and Tony Dorsett and Danny White, and actually Herschel Walker joined the team the first year, but Too Tall and Randy White, and all the Cowboy names.
Oh yeah, Randy White. I saw him.
Those guys.
Yeah,
wow, this is crazy. I'm here with these guys.
Yeah, Too Tall Jones. I mean, think about. we had a dog named Too Tall. I mean, we had one named Randy White. I'm not kidding you. Like it was crazy. These guys were legends. Like, I mean, Roger Staubach has a song, man, right? I want to be like Roger Staubach in my backyard. I mean, yeah, as a kid, there was not a boy on my neighborhood. I grew up in the country, but I mean, when we were the quarterback, we were Roger Staubach, as a boy growing up in Texas. So sorry, I didn't mean to digress.
So to be able to do that, and especially since they were all in the tail end of their careers,
mm-hmm.
So they've been playing for 10 years. So I'd watch Tony Dorsett since elementary school, basically.
Yeah.
And, Tony Hill was there. So guys that I was basically a Raider fan growing up because I grew up in Northern California, but I still admired talent. And Cowboys had a lot of talent and liked the flair of the team. And I was a Raider fan. I didn't hate the Cowboys by any stretch. But it was thrilling, obviously, to get the opportunity to play and meet these guys, my childhood heroes, and get to compete with them and hopefully win some games with them.
Wow, that is so cool. So you, you got to play in the old stadium, like
old stadium, Texas Stadium.
Yeah, Texas Stadium. I mean, like, wow, that is so cool. Yeah, I didn't. A lot of this stuff I just very rarely read a lot about anybody because I so much enjoy the story. Like for me, hearing your story is so fun because this is the first time I've heard it. Like, so I didn't know you got to meet, Roger Staubach or, Tom Landry.
Well, I've never met Roger Staubach.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, I didn't know. I was like, holy cow.
But Drew Pearson worked me out because he was part of the team in some fashion. He came to UCLA, worked me out. Out of my 3 workouts with the Cowboys, it was Paul Hackett, who was offensive coordinator. It was a scout who I don't know, and it was Drew Pearson.
Yeah,
so they all came separately.
Yeah, he wasn't any good, was he? God.
Yeah, like he was one of my guys. Like I liked him. Like he was one of my favorites. Him and Lynn Swann, even though they were kind of rivals, I guess. As a receiver coming up, those are guys like, man, I want to be like them.
Yeah, it's funny, nowadays, like I look back at these guys like, I couldn't stand Lynn Swann because he beat us and he made that one catch and
right.
Rice was another one. Like, God, because but then as you got older, obviously you're like, what great times. Like I think football back then was just so much fun. Like the rivalries, like the Steelers, the Redskins. Right. I couldn't stand the Redskins. Now they're the Commanders. Right. But going back, how much fun was that? Like those rivalries were so, they were true rivalries.
Yeah. Plus I think back then, people stayed on the same team. So it wasn't like Deion's on the Cowboys one year. Oh, he's on the 49ers. He's on the guys stayed on the same team. It's better they got this free agency for the players' sake. They get paid more, which they deserve. But as a fan, I know my guys on my team. They're always going to be on my team. And so that kind of built the rivalries with, the Cowboys hated the Steelers. They played in the Super Bowl and the old Redskins and even the whole NFC East. They all hated each other. But it was great to see, against the Eagles and the Giants. And it was fun as a kid, to watch. And it was fun for everyone to kind of root for your team and cheer against the enemy.
Yeah, it is funny you say it because, I'm, here I am. I'm 61 years old, and somebody asks, "Who's your team?" I'm like, Dallas Cowboys. I will never. My generation. When you were with the team, you were with that team forever. That's just the way it was. Right. Of course, my mom would have beat me like a drum if I'd have said something different, but it was.
Well, and plus, I will say with fantasy football, it's kind of changed how fans watch the game. So now a lot of fans are like, I'm cheering for this player. I may like the Cowboys, but my quarterback this week is Jalen Hurts. So I want the Eagles to score points. Like a true Cowboy fan would never say that if it weren't for fantasy sports. And so that's kind of changed it a little bit, the fans' perspective on watching games and the reason they watch, and also betting. Back then,
that's what they say.
You could bet with your friends, but you're going to the casinos or places and betting money. So it's different. It's all
it is
progression of sports and fans, and to me that's why football is number one, and also they play less games. But it's just different than it is today than back then.
So you get through all of how did you end up going from all of this? You go through your entire NFL career, and now you're actually work for the NFL. How did you transition through all of that?
I've done a lot of different things since retiring from football. I graduated from UCLA with a history major, BA. I don't know if I really used that at any point in my life. I guess it's not too late. But, I've been a broadcaster. I've started companies. I've done a lot of charity work. I think with the NFL Alumni Association, I'm the treasurer of the Southern California chapter. I just like it because I get to help a lot of players. So there's about 750 players in our chapter, and they have needs. And a lot of times things come across my desk that can help the players. We have a foundation, a charity we work with a lot called Shelter 37. Our president, James Washington, who was a Cowboy, played with the Rams and the Redskins back in the day, won a couple Super Bowls with the Cowboys. He started a 501c3 to help, at-risk youth and foster youth. So a lot of things I do can raise money for that charity.
So is it Shelter 37?
Well.
Is it Shelter 37 like .org, or is it, what's the actual?
.org, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Just so people would be interested in looking at that.
So being able to raise money for James, and like I said, I have a kid with autism, so I put on events to raise money for autism awareness or autism, different charities for that. So I enjoy giving back. I think that, athletes are fortunate in terms of the athletes work hard to get to where they.
You darn right. Yeah. And there's not a lot of you, by the way.
Not a lot. It's a small fraternity. But your name, your willingness to endorse something can create a lot of awareness, a lot of money, a lot of good. And so I think that not everyone is into that, but I think they should be. You're given opportunity to shine, give back to people less fortunate.
Absolutely. So when you said there were 700 and how many players?
About 750 retired players in Southern California.
So you're only dealing with the retired side of it when you're doing that?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
All right. So you're dealing from the guy that just got out to the guy that's been out for 30 years.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
All
But
right.
most, to be honest, truth be told, most of our members are a little bit older
Okay.
because the average career is 3.5 years. So guys are getting out at 24, 25. Those guys still know it all. And so they don't need
Right.
our help.
Okay.
They
I
know
got
everything
you.
at 26. They got the world conquered. So when guys get a bit older, 30, 40, 50, 60s, they're like, Mike, what are our benefits? How do I get a hip replacement? How do they're more into leveraging what they've done in the past instead of I'm still going to buy bling and the hottest car because I'm 26.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I
And
see.
God bless them. I was there at some point too.
Yeah.
But it's the people I deal with are generally a little bit older. But we welcome everyone that played in the league.
Well, I think it's important too for people to realize that. I mean, like you said, 3.5 years. I mean, you and I are 60-ish, so 3.5 years of you and I know is nothing. Like that's a blink of an eye.
For sure.
And
Yep.
we all see these people and we put them on these pedestals, and we don't think about what do they do when they are 50 years and how that applies. And obviously we know a lot more today just based on head trauma and stuff like that. But I didn't realize. So the NFL through its organization, I mean, you're helping these guys through the rest of their life, or how does that work exactly? Just kind of educate me. I don't really understand.
Yeah,
how that
so
works.
we get different. The NFL, there's two groups for retired players, and there's no beef between the two.
Mhm.
It's NFLPA, which is the union that services current and retired guys, and I'm part of the NFL Alumni Association. So we just work the retired players. Both groups have benefits for players,
Okay.
and you can take benefits from both. It's not choose one or the other.
Oh, okay.
So-
Okay. I didn't realize
So
that.
I'll communicate to retired players in LA, hey, there's a free health screening coming up next month. Time to sign up. We have a golf tournament coming up. You want to golf, have some fun, come on out. Here's a way to make money. You need a job, call these people. They're looking for retired players for A, B, and C. So there's different verticals that we help guys with and present them opportunities. They can take advantage of them or they cannot. When they're ready to, we're always here to help.
Wow, what a great organization. Yeah. Like I said, I know you hear about it on, bits and pieces, but you never really understand that. So that's amazing. So, I mean, on a national level, then you're talking about what, tens of thousands of members?
I would say
Thousands, right?
I don't know how many retired players. That's a good question. I don't know how many retired NFL players are in general that are
Okay.
still alive. Maybe 10,000, 8,000. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I have no idea. I mean, it's still a lot, but it's compared to the general population, like I said, it's a small fraternity. I mean,
For sure.
like
For
yours
sure.
is small.
Yeah. And also I think the perception of the general public is kind of swayed by the bigger name people. So you
Yeah.
see Jerry Rice played 20 years, Tom Brady played 20 years, that guys play 10 years. Everybody just signs up, you have 10 years, but the average person is not making the big money. They're not lasting. No crying for these players, but they're not making generational money after a couple of years. I mean,
Yeah,
your second contract, if you get there, you can do really well. And granted, the money they're making a lot of money compared to the average person.
right.
But it's not generational money that people think that every player is making. There are a good number of them, but not the majority is not making this generational money.
Yeah, my thing is I always still this is what I always think about you as a player. You're one play away from being out of business.
For sure.
I mean, you're the entrepreneur of entrepreneurs. I mean, you're like me. If I go out of business, I don't go get it. I lose everything. And I'm not saying you don't lose everything, but I mean, your form of income ends in one play. I mean,
For sure. And especially in football where the contracts aren't guaranteed. So they're guaranteed a certain amount if you get hurt, but could only be 1 year. And so then after the next year, they can cut you. And then maybe you're getting half your salary for the next year. Then that's it. The new guy rolls in and the new guy's going to take the money that you were promised. So it's deceiving, the contracts where they'll say Joe Blow signs 4 years for $50 million. He gets hurt. He may only make $5 million, or which is still good money, but not the money that people think that they're getting or his family is spending. The family is spending that $50 million. and he may never get it.
Yeah. And by the way, you live in Dallas 1 week and you could be in Kansas City 2 weeks from now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
so
yeah.
Not many players have a no trade contract. In basketball, they might. If you're like as big as LeBron or some of the stars of basketball, it's completely different. But football, you're just a number.
Yeah. I've talked to some of you guys.
You get shipped out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, but I can tell you what, I'll take my stability over yours. That's woo.
But it's just short-lived. I mean, it is short. You know, it's going to be by the time you're 30 something at the most. You're on to profession number 2.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, my final question to you today then is, what a great interview. I really enjoyed, because I know nothing about your business and what you did. So this is really fun for me. So do you think you were born or do you think you were made?
I would say mostly made. I do have I will say a pedigree in terms of my mom ran in the Olympics. My dad played college basketball. So I have athletes in my family. But I think what really got me to the top of my game in sports was just hard work and dedication and wanting it and being hungry. That's really what outworking people and knowing who my competition was. And that's one thing I kind of found out early, or figured out who my competition was early in my days at UCLA. So I got to UCLA and I was eventually getting close to playing. My competition wasn't guys at ASU or USC or Ohio State. It was guys in this receiver room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these other 10, 12 guys, like, I need to be better than all these dudes to play. I don't care about the other schools. I need to get on the field. How can I outwork these guys? Or what can I do better? How can I, pay attention or do extra work than these 12 guys in the room? And how can I remain coachable? My main goal is to get on the field and beat out everybody. And I wasn't opposed to trading trade secrets. Like, Mike, how'd you get open? This is what I did. What did you do for work? Like, what happened today? I got up before you guys and I did cardio and I lifted while you guys are sleeping. You guys do what you need to do. This is how I'm getting better. This is how I'm pushing myself. So I think in setting goals for myself and writing them down. So I think I made myself through hard work. I did have obviously people that helped me through the way. My parents were always super supportive of what I was doing. And I had great college coaches. Got Homer Smith, who I mentioned, a guy named Norm Anderson, Coach Terry Downey, who gave an opportunity. Those guys that at a certain point believed in me and gave me a platform to excel. But a lot of it was, blood, sweat, and tears on that practice field is really what propelled me to, be, first round pick. I was the first receiver picked in my draft. From a walk-on to first receiver picked in the draft. There's a lot of hard work. It's not luck. And it's not things other people can't do. But I tell younger kids, are you willing to sacrifice? What's your goals? Do you want to, because I talk to kids, I'll say, who wants to play D1 football? They all raise their hand. Who wants to play football? They all raise their hand.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing towards that goal? Do you want to be the best football player or the best Xbox player in your neighborhood? What's your goal? Like, you can't do both. Like, there's sacrifice you have to make. If you're not willing to make sacrifices, the goals, the tough goals and the tough dreams aren't easy to reach. And so, yeah, I think hard work got me to where, I made it in football.
Well, that is great. I really enjoyed this. You have a great attitude. So mark that one down too. I love your spirit, and you just have a very positive attitude on things. And I really appreciate that. It gave me a lot of, there's a couple times I got chills, a couple things you said. And again, thank you so much, Mike, for taking the time out of your day to do this. I really enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully be in touch with you soon.
Yeah, no, thanks for having. I love sharing my story, and I do keep it positive. I mean, there's so much bad stuff out there. Like, who wants to dwell on that? Let's keep it positive, and good things will happen. That's what I truly believe.
That's great. Thanks again, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Enjoy your day. Thanks.
You too. Bye-bye.